as a real estate advisor, I've seen firsthand how people that are already going through a very emotional time in their lives get sideswiped with what are they going to do with the property? What are they going to do with mom's house? And sometimes there's even a family living in the house. And people have all these different concepts of what should and shouldn't be done with property. And so I think that that's why it's such an important thing to plan for, because that is the one thing that can destroy families.
Yeah, I have seen it. I think people maybe underestimate the stress and trauma that their family's going to feel when they're gone. And you layer on an emotional thing like real estate, family homes, personal property, quilts and photos and memories, like all attached to these items. And they think their kids are just going to like get along famously and figure it out. That's just not the reality, right? People have so much going on that layering on lack of planning literally just makes it worse.
Right. And then you have your dynamics, like what are the sibling relationships and who was always the person that was in charge? What do you think is the one thing that puts people off from having an estate plan?
They don't want to talk about it. People say money. They will all like that's the number one reason. I do a lot of seminars, I do a lot of speaking, and I talk to people and I go, "Why haven't you done this?" Money. And I'm like, "I don't think it's money. You have money. I see your balance sheet, I see your assets, I see your home." It's I think more emotional. I think it is facing death, like having to go, that will happen to me, and then a conversation and probably a lot of fear around like not knowing enough and not feeling comfortable enough. And lawyers can be awful. They can be scary. They can be, talked down to. That's not my firm, obviously. We're real humans and we
Hmm.
talk in plain English, but that's not the history of lawyers. That's not most people's experience with lawyers. And so I think there's just a lot of unknown and emotion wrapped up in the I'm not sure what's going to happen. So it's easier for me just to like not tackle that today because I don't have to, right? I'm not dying today, I don't think. So I'm not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think too that like when you said about having the conversation, I remember talking to my mom and like one thing was like her dog. She had this little dog that she never trained. And I would say, Mom, if in case something happens to you, I wouldn't say when you die, no one's
No,
gonna want your dog because he's not house trained and you need to train your dog so he doesn't end up on the pound. So
no, that's
but
not
I
what
would
we
never
say.
say when you die. It was always like if something happens,
Something
because people don't wanna
happens.
say that.
They don't. I mean, I say I'm wearing a shirt that says future dead
Yeah.
person. I'm like, I am going to say it because I'm tired of people going, "Oh, I'm not sure." And I'm like, I don't think you understand. You will die, whether you like the conversation or not. What if you were part of the conversation? What if you had the conversation, got your stuff in order, and then didn't have to worry about it anymore? That's what I want for people is to take action, get through the uncomfortable so they can like stop thinking about it. Cause otherwise it just stays up here.
Right.
I talked to
And
a guy the other day and he was like, it's like a weight. It's like a weighted blanket on my back all the time. And I'm like, we could take the blanket off. Just come see us.
that's funny. Well, the thing is, like, when I first met you, it was because my mom passed away and we didn't have any passwords to any of her
Yep. I
content, I
remember
mean,
that.
her accounts. And what that prompted me to do was make sure that I signed up for one of those services. And now I put every one of my passwords in there. I have a different password to get into it.
Of
So
course.
it's
It's very
very
meta, the number of
everything.
passwords you need to
But
get into the
y
password
but
places.
yeah, and so I've told my son, if anything happens and see, here I'm saying, "If anything happens," instead
If
of, "If
anything
I
happens to you,
die or when I die, here's this has that password, and this is what you're gonna need to
yeah.
do." I can hear my husband's like, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to pay the bills. I don't know what to do."
Seriously though, it's always in a couple, it's
I know,
always
it's
one
like some
person
people.
knows everything and one
Exactly.
knows
And
not
one
that
other
thing.
thing, like just everything just happens to magically just happen here, everything's maintained. But the house is always the one thing that people think that, like, you have a house, I don't have a house, I'm just gonna move into mom's house. And it's like, no, you're not gonna do that. Well, you're greedy. You just want to sell the house to get money. And I've heard these are things I hear firsthand, okay?
Sell
This
your
is a
house.
family asset. This isn't personal. But this is just how property is passed down. It gets divided, it gets sold. because
Yeah.
each
Unless you'd like
person.
to pay for it
Yeah,
or buy
exactly,
them
and
out.
there was a friend of mine that was actually telling me this, and I said, "Well, not being unreasonable by wanting to do something with the house, that's their inheritance. It's not like you're doing something terrible to the grandson and his family because now they have nowhere to live." But those are actual thoughts that people process after a situation like that. And imagining, having to go to court and dealing with probate on top of that, and then have a judge assign who's going to be in charge, that is just a nightmare.
It is. Well, and I don't think a lot of people actually understand that the trustee, if there's a trust, or the executor, if there's a probate, they have legal obligations. They have to get all the assets. They have to pay all the debts. They have to pay all the creditors. There might not be an option where you get to keep the house because not
That's
only is it
true.
too expensive to maintain, but the lawyer has to be paid, the courts have to be paid, the credit card company, that like they have an obligation to all the beneficiaries. You can't
Right.
treat one differently just because they don't have a house. That's not how the law is set up. We don't have that flexibility.
Right. But that's actually what people think, that's and I'm telling you, I've heard this over and over and over.
Funny. Well,
This is not the first time I've heard it. I mean, I don't even wanna mention people because if I say so
no, no,
and
no.
so
We
did
don't need to
this and
mention
that did
people's
that. No,
names,
no, no,
but you
no.
know who
But
you are. Or if
I'm
you're
just
listening to this thinking, oh, I'll just move into grandma's house, pick a different plan.
yeah, pick a different plan because like you said, it does, and especially if there's no if in an estate, isn't everything kept private if they pass away?
So a trust administration, yes, right? If we're not in probate, probate is court supervised.
Right.
The
So
court sees
everything's
into it.
public.
It's public record.
Yes.
A trust administration is a private family matter. Everything can be done generally, if nobody's fighting, without the involvement of the public. So it's usually less expensive, less time consuming, but also most importantly, private.
Right. Because going through probate is like taking yourself to court,
Yeah.
basically, because you're having to go through a court process.
No.
So you
And
might
not
as
only
well
does
get
the person who died have their information, but all the heirs and beneficiaries, their names and contact information and how much money they're receiving and which
oh,
assets they're receiving is public
it's
record.
public record.
Yeah. Ew.
Ew.
Nobody likes that. I don't
No.
like it. I hate probates. I hate probates. We're not even taking them on anymore. They're just so awful. We're only doing estate planning and trust
Right.
administration. So
I don't know if you've heard of Paul Horn. He teaches probate to for realtors. So I took that class through the California Association of Realtors to get certified for probate.
okay.
And I'll tell you, you know what I learned? Do not want to deal with probate. I would rather I would rather talk to people about getting their estate plan. And then it's like, oh yeah, if that's where you end up, yes, I could probably help you, but that's not an ideal
It's not your bread and
situation. And
butter.
that's like, no, that's like if I say I'm a probate specialist, that doesn't mean that I want to specialize in
In
doing that.
probates.
Because even getting down to selling the house, there's too many pitfalls, too many things that can go wrong. And yeah, it's much better to have an estate plan. I mean, to have people in the family pitch in or something if they're worried about the money,
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
there are many ways. I mean, a lot of firms will, mine included, take credit cards, do payment plans. Like it's usually, like so I said, it's usually not about the money. That's not the thing.
And well, I think a lot of times too, it is about denial as well, with people thinking about their own mortality. And even if it's the kids, there could be somebody that says, "Hey, we need to do an estate plan," and another one's going to say, "Well, why do you want to do that?" And it starts getting again. Anytime it has anything to do with money and family and property, it's messy. I mean, I went through that with my own family. My grandmother passed away years ago, and I put that in my book, and I was like, "Should I write put this in my book?" And I thought, "Well, it happened. It was true." And I haven't talked to any of them in, like, 40 years.
I mean, that I think how we share and get people motivated oftentimes is by stories.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, that won't happen to me." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, I've been doing this for 13 years exclusively. I graduated from law school, I opened my firm, and I did estate planning and trust administrations and probates. That's all I've ever done, right? Do you not understand how many people I've met with? How many conversations I've had? How many people have called me after it's too late? And sometimes if they hear it enough, they're like, "Oh, it really does happen. Like in this universe, in this city." And I'm like, Yes, it
Yes,
does.
to people that you would never imagine, never, never imagine. You know, you could say that grandma thought all her grandkids were gonna get along and have a wonderful life together, but now they're not talking to each other, and, all these things over, like you say, a quilt or some photographs or just simple things that are, you lose that whole relationship over, and so it is better to look at it as it's a protective measure for everyone
Yeah. I
than
think everybody
to
should know what to expect, right?
right,
Not just the estate plan, like, yes, the estate plan, but, like, did you give the house to one kid and cash to the other? Did you give them 50-50? Do you know my favorite thing I try and talk people out of when they get their estate plan done?
right,
They go, "Okay, I want the family to keep the house, and anyone who wants to use it can use it, and they can rent it out if they don't want to. And then once everyone's over this age, then they'll sell it." And I go, "That's a terrible idea. It sounds really sweet. It's really well intentioned, and it's not going to work."
right.
And so we go through all the mechanics of all the things we'd have to put in those documents to make that work. And they're like, "Never mind."
'Cause it sounds wonderful, you
Sounds
know?
so
It
sweet.
does, and a lot of people, because they haven't had life experience and they're younger and literally not it's just a matter. Because I could say I've thought that way when I was younger as well, just like you said about let's have the house so that someone can stay in it, and even having that sentimental value of we grew up in the house. I remember all the dinners and everything, and a lot of times I would see people that would buy grandma's house and they would live in the house. But when you're younger, you're not aware so much of the financial aspects of life. You're living where things are provided for you, and you've always had your parents or your grandparents that bought you things. So to you, you think that they have money and you don't understand the financial aspects and those responsibilities of taxes and insurance and upkeep and everything of the property because you never were subject to any of that information or what they were doing to maintain it. So you only got to have the enjoyment of it. And so you want to carry that on. And yes, it feels comfortable. It feels wonderful. And it's what would happen. The point I'm getting to is that a lot of times when somebody did get the family home, they actually purchased it. They went and they purchased the home and they paid
Sure.
everybody else for the home, but that's not
Great.
always talked about, so people don't see that, and they just see that, "Oh, we live in our grandma's home," but as if the whole family agreed that they could just have it, but that's not the way it works out. It's that usually when you see that situation, the person that's living in the house got it financed and they paid everybody off for their share so that they could live in the house, but they actually bought the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it isn't a matter of like, "Yes, I'll just have grandma's house." It is they usually buy the house because those are assets. I try to explain that to people when it comes to real estate is an asset.
Yeah.
It's like
It's an
and
investment.
it's an investment and it's an asset, so it's not something that can just, be frozen because somebody wants to live in the house
Unless
after
you're all
it's
independently
sold.
wealthy and can
Yeah,
afford to keep it
exactly.
up. Sure, go for it.
Yeah,
Keep the
yeah,
house.
that's true, that's true.
I mean, but that's the situation. And a lot of the tax law changes, right? Where we had Prop 19, we used to be able to keep our taxes low, and
Yeah.
now you have to have a child living in it within a year. So it's financially just isn't as feasible as it used to be.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is the thing is people just don't realize that it's not something that they're gonna get out of. Like, if you don't take care of it now, you're gonna be forced to do something later, and that later is going to be worse. Because imagine having to hold on to the house and you can't sell it or do anything with it until it goes through probate. And then you have like you said, you gotta pay for all the court fees and everything, and you're sitting there like somebody's gonna have to pay the taxes, somebody's gonna have to keep it up, and it just stays sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a fun game we're playing here.
And here's another thing that I also wanted to get to where you talked about future okay, we talked about future dead person, but what was the dead husbands club?
A Dead Husbands Club, yes. So again, I've been doing this a really long time now. I mean, long for me, maybe not long if I'm really old, but give me some more time. And I realized that my clients, a lot of I call them my little old ladies, and not all of them are old, by the way, but
Yeah.
that's just sort of how I would characterize them as like someone else paid for all the things, ran the businesses, had all the passwords, as it were, and died and left them with sort of no roadmap, no resources. Maybe they have assets, maybe they have cash, maybe they have investments, and they're sort of left to fend for themselves. And I was like, that's a unique experience to have a partner and to have that partner disappear and you're left to handle everything now. Like most people don't have that shared experience a lot of times. And so I created the Dead Husbands Club, which is a small group right now of some wonderful women um, that get together occasionally and just talk about what's happening in their life. I did it because I wanted to connect them. And I figured they might need some of my connections, not my resources, not my clients. I'm sorry, not my services. They either have them or they don't. That wasn't
Right.
the purpose. The purpose was to have them, maybe they need a
Have
financial advisor,
resources.
CPA,
Right.
real estate agent, and they've never hired those people before. They've never managed these contracts. They've never had to research, how do I find a financial advisor? And so I was like, I'll be their connector. And so we have our next upcoming gathering is a death cafe, actually, in June. And so we're going to be hosting a conversation for women only. They don't have to have a dead husband to come, by the way, just anyone, to talk about death.
Like for my age and where my husband's age is, that's something that, I'm like, "Not today."
Not
It's
today.
like
No
I
thanks.
actually say it out loud, "Not today," because that is something that's gonna happen to all of us. And, you get into that whole mindset of the rug's pulled out from under you and you're supposed to continue your life. So it is good to have that type of support and other people that can relate to what you're going through. Because the worst thing is when people they want to comfort you, but they don't know how because they've never experienced that. And they also are living their lives. So they don't have any idea of what you need.
Yeah. Actually, one of the worst days of a widow's life is their 1 year, that 1 year anniversary of their death and also their wedding anniversary. Like people are like, "Oh, your husband died. That's really sad. Do you want some casseroles and here's some
Yeah,
flowers?"
that's what I was gonna say, they can
Right?
bring over casserole.
And then time goes on and everybody assumes like, "Oh, they've moved on, they're fine." And then these milestone events happen and it just sinks them, right? And they don't know I should be telling my friend, "Hey, my anniversary is coming up and I don't want to be alone today." Or it's been a year. I can't believe it's been a year. Like that sort of hits them because grief comes in waves, right? And
Right.
if I know this, and I think you probably know this, if you're administering anything, a probate or a trust or whatever, you're not grieving a lot. You're doing paperwork. You're trying to like just get through it. And then when you finish the process, you're just like, oh my God, my spouse is dead. Like you just didn't have time to do it. And so it hits them at different times and no one knows that unless they've gone through it.
Yeah, because it kinda distracts you from your
Yes.
feelings because 'cause you're
Yeah.
too busy with that. Yeah, I can
Which is
imagine
kind of
that.
good. I mean, something to keep you busy is not
Yeah.
a bad
I
thing
mean,
when you're
things like
trying to
that
deal with
happen
that.
when you're washing the dishes or you're cooking or you're doing something or you're putting your makeup on or you're in the shower. Those are the times when you're like all of those thoughts are coming and all those emotions are coming up because other than that, you're distracting yourself by going through motions of doing other things.
Yeah, wild world. Actually, on the widow thing, a lot of people, I think, assume that widows are old.
Isn't it like in their 50s usually that women
So
become
there are
widows?
far more women than I think most people expect who are widows younger. I have a number of clients who had their husband die unexpectedly, car accident
Oh,
or
yeah.
cancer or heart attack, those sorts of things. And so I think that's also another missed group of people raising young families or kids, and they're a widow. Right. Most men, statistically speaking, get remarried 1 year after their spouse dies. 1 year. They're remarried. Women, it's like 7 years.
Yeah.
They're like, "Nope, not doing that." And I know a financial advisor who only represents divorced and widowed women. Most of her clients are younger. They're not in their 90s, they're in their 50s or 40s, right? Because 'Cause they're now navigating this financial piece, without a partner. And I think that's, a really interesting sort of demographic that has
Yeah.
a set of needs and we need to think through what they're going through when we're serving them as professionals.
As I get older, I don't ever wanna lose my autonomy. I wanna make sure that there's never anybody telling me to do if I don't wanna do something, I don't ever wanna get pushed into doing that, and I just wonder with estate planning, is that an issue ever that comes up with people?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Nobody wants to go live in a care home. I mean, I do, by the way. Sign me up for retirement assisted living. I'm ready for it. Hear me out. There's like bunko and bingo and someone to cart me around and make my meals and I get to hang out. But I'm like, I like people. So
Yeah,
but most people are not like me. They're like, "I will die in my home." Like, I will die before I come out of leave this home, and so they're like, "I want
yeah.
my autonomy." But I'll tell you, most people are not me. Most people are like, "I would like my independence. I would like all the things that I have." And I think they think, "If I get my estate plan done, I lose that power. Someone can take me out of my home." And the reality is that's not how it's set up, right? So the law presumes that you should be in the least restrictive place, meaning the one where you have the most control. Also, importantly, if you don't have an estate plan, the court will decide who is in charge of putting you in an assisted living
Oh,
facility. If
yeah.
for some reason you
That would be
mentally cannot manage yourself and pay your bills and make medical decisions or care for yourself anymore. If you have an estate plan, you decide who makes that decision, right? Look at the survey of the people in your life, your friends, your family, your spouse, whoever, and go, if I really can't make decisions, who do I think will act in my best interest? And having that is so powerful versus going, who got to the courtroom first or put on the best story for the judge, which may not be the right kid for you, may not be
right.
any of your kids, quite frankly. Right? Because giving that power to children who they have an investment in spending as the least amount of money on you as
Right.
possible versus maybe like a professional whose job is to care for you regardless of how much money your kids get. You can see how those are different decisions. But if you don't have an estate plan, you make none of the decisions. The court just goes, well, here's what we think you would do. Hope we're right. So
That should scare anybody into getting their state
it
plan.
should. You'd think it would, Christy, but
God.
yet they still don't.
Oh my god.
Maybe
I mean,
some
look.
will. Maybe
Oh,
some
that'd
will
be like,
listen
you
to
know
me.
what? Every year for Christmas, just give me money to go into my estate plan program, and I'm just gonna you know what I mean? Because a lot of people just think that it's so expensive. That's the reason I say that, because people just I mean, they'll spend money on things that they shoes and clothes and stuff, but they think about things like that, like it's just I don't understand. There's just something about it. I know because a lot of things that are worth the investment, people have a hard time putting that into.
It's
But
not
I
about
think
the
that's
money.
when you say it's about money,
Yeah.
or you're like,
No,
"It's
so
not about the money." Or it's
no,
about
and
the
I will
money?
tell you, base price estate plans, between 3 and let's call it $7,000, right? 3 for a will-based plan. For our office, we start at 5. It can get more expensive for sure, but I'm like, okay, here's my story. I have a client who goes, I need to make some updates. I'm deciding to move forward. They go, I don't know. We're really worried about the money. We'll call you back after we get back from Europe. You're going to Europe and you're concerned about the price? You're not. I know you're not concerned about our pricing. 1, because you've hired us before. 2, I know what you would do for a living. 3, I know what assets you have. This is not about the money. Something else is stopping you. Now, someone might not have 3 or 5,000 or $10,000 to do their estate plan because they literally don't have enough money. Most people in California, at least in Fair Oaks, right?
Yeah,
They have enough that they could, if they wanted to, invest that in protecting themselves and their family. But it's way less sexy to buy an estate plan binder than it is a cruise.
right. That's true.
Also, the cruise was more than $5,000. I'll bet it.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I'll tell you, if you think about it as losing your freedom and having a court-appointed
Is that worth
person to decide
$5,000?
what that's worth it. That's like,
Hell yeah.
yeah, hell
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
Because that would be horrible. Nobody likes court.
Nobody
Nobody
likes
have you
court.
anyone
Yeah.
that's even had to be through the family court system or anything, sometimes your kids aren't the best people to make some choices, you
Yeah.
know?
It's
As
I
much
said
as
this
you
recent
love them to
I
death, and,
know.
that's the
Yeah.
thing.
They have different, yeah, how do I say this?
Different priorities.
different priorities, different skill sets. I said this recently to a group of people. I go, just because your child was born first does not mean they are the most competent for the job. So they might be, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm a firstborn. I
Yeah,
would
I'm a
rock being
firstborn. Yeah.
trustee. Do I want to be? Heck no. I know too much about it. Sign
Yeah.
someone else up. But think about like who is good. We're talking about medical versus
Right.
financial decision making. Who's really good at making emotional, medical, like those sorts of things? Are they the same person who can organize a spreadsheet and pay bills and hire vendors? They might not be. So thinking about who's best for the role, not who happens to be related to you or
Right.
firstborn,
And
I
who's
think is
gonna
a better
listen? Who's
test.
gonna ask more questions, like, about the medical
Yes.
procedures and what's rather
Yes.
than just yes or no, or yeah, there's a lot to think about. And the thing too is people just assume that because they're related that and next of kin that they get to make those choices, but that's not necessarily
No.
the
Just
case.
because you're married doesn't mean you get to make decisions for your spouse. You still have to have a power of attorney and a healthcare directive to make those decisions if your spouse loses capacity.
Yeah.
People don't know that. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Did you want to read the probate code? No, I did. Trust me.
Yeah.
You both need an estate plan. It's not very interesting. You're not going to get out of it. Yeah.
I mean, this is good. I don't have an estate plan.
Chrysti, we are going to get you an estate plan. I scared you with the giving up power. That's a good one. That's a
The
good
thing
one.
is so many people don't have it,
Yes.
there's people that do and there's people that don't, and it's like,
Yeah.
because you don't know enough about it, it's all you see is the the hard stuff in the way, and like you say, it's like, "No, I don't wanna deal with that today," or
I
it's,
don't
"I
wanna deal
already
with
have
that.
enough
I
stuff
don't
going
either, by
on."
the way. I'm not
Yeah,
like,
nobody
"Yeah,
does. Yeah,
this is fun."
but it's something to put off and then you end up regretting it.
You're either gonna tackle it when you have enough capacity to, like, think through the decisions
Right.
and make good decisions, or you're gonna be too late and you're dead, or somewhere in the middle of like, "Oh, shit, I
You
have a
can't make
procedure
decisions.
and I'm really worried about it." Like, are you gonna make the best decisions in that frame of mind or when you have
Right.
2 months to go through the process and have space? It's this one
And I
over
like what
here.
you said, the thing about having if you have an estate plan, then you can decide who takes care of everything, and if you don't have an estate plan, then it could be appointed for you. Just like you said, who gets to court and who says the best story, and
Yes, yeah.
yeah, that
That
can
actually
happen.
happened. That happened in a guardianship matter. We were representing the uncle who was nominated as the guardian of this young child, and the person who was living in the home with the child got to court first, filed it, and the court was like, "Oh, well, best interest is where they are." And by the time they got to the next round, they were like, "Well, the kid's been there for 6 months. We can't move him now." And the uncle even
Yeah.
no, no. So we don't want that. We do not want that. So planning's not about death. It is a little bit about death, but it's not about death. It is about being part of the conversation. So if you'd like your conversation to be in there, you have to get your estate plan done. Otherwise, we're just going to make up whatever we have at the time based on the laws and the assets and the information available to us.
There were things that when I was younger that meant a lot to me that I have now even in my life that were things that I would ask my grandmother, "Grandmama, when you die, can I have that?"
I did that all
And
the
she would
time.
say yeah, and I would say, "When you die, can I have that?" So she actually put my name on a tape behind, things like that, so I have them. And I'm glad I do because, otherwise I might not have had them. When we get to this point in our lives, when we are having to make those decisions, that's where it is important to make it while we have our full capacity to do so because we can't put ourselves into somebody else's. It's almost like not their responsibility, to have to
Guess
make
what you
those
wanted?
kinds of decisions.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine like going and seeing someone in the hospital and going, "I decide whether you live or die today." And you're like, you have no frame of reference. You have nothing in writing. You have no guideline. You just have to guess.
Right.
I'm like, that's not a fun scenario. That's why I'm like, healthcare directive, it gives some guidelines. That's important. People are like, oh yeah, barrel cremation. Fun guess? No. You can't change it later. You can't
Yeah.
go, my bad, we did cremation, but I'd like to bury them. Kind of you can't undo. Like, let's get that stuff in writing.
And then to having it where you're not arguing with other people in the family about,
Oh
what
gosh.
to do.
I know someone who does funeral law, and that's what they do. They fight with people over what happens to the body, and it's real bad. It's nasty, right? And usually because they didn't have the things in writing.
Okay, so people.
People.
People, we have to do this. Yeah. Well, that's why I was saying, like, when we kept talking about what it costs to have, an estate plan, and some people have it and some don't, so that's why I'm saying, like, when people, like, save for things, like, for their vacation or their college or whatever, it's like, here, you should start a fund for that and, like, have put savings in it so that you can do it,
Yeah.
not make
Here,
it
let's
where it's a big
let's
amount.
let's play a fun game called How Much Does Probate Cost? Can you give me the average price of a house in Fair Oaks?
Oh,
Or
probably about 600, 700,000 for just a not the biggest because we have like
okay,
900,
you got
say
some big houses.
800,000.
800. Okay. So I'm going to go onto a calculator and I'm going to put in 800,000 boop 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 as the fees for just the house. And I want to make sure that everyone understands who's listening that we calculate probate based on the value of the home, not the equity in the home. So they might have an $800,000 house with $100,000 equity. The lawyer and the executor get paid on the total value. So if we just probated the house, nothing else, a single house for $800,000 is $38,000
Wow.
plus fees. And that's assuming everything goes super smoothly. No one's fighting. We have no issues. The sale goes well. There's not a lot of debts. That's crazy. Let's say the estate plan did cost 5,000 and maybe it would be even less because they were more simple or I don't know, whatever. You could save $33,000 just for the probate. Now,
Yeah.
remember the thing I talked about? If you're incapacitated and we have to go to court and make decisions for you, that's on top. You'd have to pay more for that because you'd have to get a conservatorship, which is real expensive. Wasn't that a fun game?
No, no, it is, but that's why I'm saying it's like something to make a priority. Like, this is what you need to, if you don't have it to do, if you're going to be overwhelmed by that, think about the worst case scenario, but then also you could plan ahead. You could plan ahead. You could put a fund and say, I have an account that this is what I do instead of buying shoes or whatever.
$500 a
Have
month,
it in there so much a
$100 a
month till
month,
I have it and I do
whatever.
it. And then have, like, instead of one person trying to do it all, come together as a family, because as a family, it's gonna save relationships, it's
Heck
gonna make
yeah.
it easier on everybody, there won't be people fighting over things, it's like, don't look at it as something that you don't wanna talk about, and you don't wanna because, and you don't wanna feel like you're being greedy or anything, it's something that you're gonna have to go through whether you like it or not. So just plan for it and make it something that's normal. Let's make it normal. That should be a new
Let's make it
slogan.
normal. Let's
Make it
make it
normal.
normal.
Let's get the
Yeah.
conversation. Make it
Wear my
normal.
shirt and they have to,
I'm
then it's
definitely
normal.
make it normal. Well, that's
Make it
true.
normal.
When you do get older, you've got to think about that, but people don't want to think about it.
Yeah. Or they're like, oh, I'll think about that when I'm older.
So if you put it off and you don't talk about it, somebody's going to hold the bag. What is it when you say left holding the bag?
Someone's left
Somebody's going to
holding the
have to
bag.
hold the bag. I really, really appreciate getting to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, of course. If I can help
And
one more person or several
yes,
people or many people to get their stuff done.
and I will put the link to your website everywhere that this appears, and anyone
And
can
thank you.
go find you. You're friendly, warm, and easy to talk to, and you truly are looking out for someone's best interest. And like you say, you understand people.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I
And my
really do.
entire team too, right? I've got a whole host of people who can help too. So yeah. I'm glad I could help motivate some people learn a little bit more about this in a safe space so
Yes.
they can take some action.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll be back. We'll do something else soon.
Sounds good.